Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 207, From the Vault. Original episode 145, Assertiveness is More Than Just a Skill. Well, welcome to this month, which will be featuring some of your favorite episodes of the show, namely around assertiveness. I noticed that many of you like to go back to the beginning and binge listen, yet some of you have asked that I bring back a few of your favorites since you don't have that kind of time right now. In this episode, we talk about how true assertiveness is really an integration of things that enables us to stand firmly in our convictions, speaking up for what we believe in, and advocating for ourselves and others without compromising our integrity. It is not about dominance or aggression, but assertiveness is rather about finding that delicate balance between asserting our rights and respecting the rights of others. This allows us, I think, to maintain open and honest communication. It fosters healthy relationships and helps to create an environment, I think, of mutual understanding and respect. You know, I think assertiveness is so important because it empowers us to stand tall in our authenticity, where we can effectively express our thoughts and beliefs, and I think live a life that's congruent with our deepest values and principles, which is why we feel so much better and more confident. All right, without further ado, here is episode 145. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 145, Healthy Communication. Assertiveness is more than just a skill. Well, welcome back as we finish up our theme this month about healthy communication and why I think it's so crucial to have in our relationships. So all month we've been talking about the components of healthy communication, from emotional honesty to being clear and direct. Well, today I want to talk about a compilation of all the things we talked about this month and more, and that is assertiveness. Because I want to talk about how true assertiveness, to me, is actually a package of things that I think all work together so we can stand in our truth, speak our truth, and live our truth, all while being calm, considerate, and consistent so that we allow others to do the same. Okay, so what makes up assertiveness? Now, I'm going to do a broad brush this episode, guys. There's so much more meat to this, and I'm designing a course on it right now. So know that we're just mentioning the big things here. Each piece has a lot of depth to it. All right, so the most obvious one I would think would be good boundaries. Can't have anything good without good boundaries, I always say. Can't have trust in a relationship, can't have self-esteem, and you sure as hell can't have assertiveness. You know, good boundaries are what you're willing to do and not willing to do, what you tolerate and what you don't, where you end and others begin. There are a bunch of episodes on boundaries that you can go back and listen to if you haven't. If you're not familiar with boundaries, you've heard me say on the show, it's a huge paradigm. It takes a hot minute to get it all down. But it's something that you dive into and you work on. Kind of like if you were training for a marathon coming 6 months down the road or a year down the road. Those of you who do that wonderful training know that you have to start now. And it's going to take you a while to get into that kind of shape to run a marathon. Well, boundary work is the same. It is taking muscles that have not been worked or worked in a while and strengthening them and creating muscle memory. I think we create muscle memory in personal growth as much as we do in our physical growth. Okay, so good boundaries. You know, boundaries are a way to take care of yourself. When you set boundaries, you're going to be less angry and resentful because you're getting needs met, hopefully. You're standing in your truth. You're letting other people know about you. You're honoring what matters to you. You're not putting up with abuse. You are telling people what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And boundaries are all about being in reality and coming to acceptance around our reality and the reality of others. Boundaries are not about control, and everyone mixes that up. Boundaries are not trying to get someone else to do, to be, to stop, to change. They're about us. What are we willing to do? What do we need to do to take care of ourselves? What choices do we need to make? We take personal responsibility for our choices, and we get better and better at that. The better we get at boundaries. They go hand in hand. All right, so what are some symptoms of poor boundaries? And we've visited this before, but I think it's worth talking about again on the show. Well, one of the clear indicators is you're irritable a lot. You have a lot of frustration, kind of chronic. You often feel unappreciated and disrespected, and maybe you are being unappreciated and disrespected. And you ruminate about this a lot. And you hang on the cross sometimes, and you feel really beat up and victimized by what's going on around you, and especially the people around you. You just wish they could be different. But without good boundaries, you also can feel responsible for other people's feelings, their thoughts, their choices, the consequences they're getting ready to play out, and you'd love to stop that for them. So there's no line between where you end and other people begin. When people struggle with boundaries, they have a hard time revealing what they feel because they don't want to be shamed or rejected or otherwise emotionally abandoned. So they do a lot of people pleasing. They try to make everyone happy, especially with how needed they can be, how reliable they can be, their performance. They're very driven at work, at school, in their relationships. They're going, doing all the time, burning themselves out often. They don't take care of themselves because they're striving just to be okay. People with poor boundaries stay in unhealthy environments, relationships and work relationships, because they have the irrational fear that there won't be better, there won't be someone else. Maybe they don't feel worthy enough deep down. Maybe there's a lack of trust in the process, in the universe, that things could be better for them. They don't have a lot of hope in that. So they stay, and they stay miserable. Until usually something happens, something gives, something gets too bad, or they start growing. When people have poor boundaries in their relationships, they often feel trapped, overwhelmed, and or manipulated. If you don't have great boundaries, you're not going to speak up. When you're treated badly, you kind of freeze. You stuff your feelings. You bitch about it afterwards, but you don't take care of yourself in the moment. Or maybe you make excuses for them. You gaslight yourself, like we talked about before. You often feel overwhelmed because you give away way too much of your time and energy, and maybe even money. There isn't balance. There isn't reality. And when I say reality, it's like, what about you? What about your laundry that needs to get done this week? What about your self-care? What about your downtime? What about your fun? But when it comes to this, you might also feel guilty for dedicating time to you, for asking for what you need. You're going to think it feels lazy or selfish, or there's no possible way you could squeeze that in. The lack of boundaries. And one of those boundaries is it's your responsibility to take care of your own well-being. It's not on other people for you to do that. But boundary work calls in reality, and it says, oh wow, there's only 24/7. I need to accept that I can't do everything. I'm not superhuman. All right, so boundaries are a big deal. And I think if you're going to start somewhere in this process on assertiveness, I would start there. But anywhere you've already started in the process is going to lead you to boundaries, so it's all good. All right. Another important aspect of being able to like the person that you're bringing to the table, the person that you want to be, that stands up and speaks and is direct, is self-acceptance. Self-acceptance also involves the healing work Maybe the grief work around your childhood wounds. Any other traumas whenever they happened in your life. And then after that, ways you may have also harmed yourself emotionally, relationally, financially, and a million other ways. Like times you settled for less than you or anyone deserved. You sold yourself short. Maybe you acted out. All these things we need to unearth and heal in order to love ourselves, scars and all. To grab that context you hear me talking about all the time around the fact that so much of it happened to you and created context for all the other not so fabulous choices you made from then on. And all the fabulous coping mechanisms, aka dysfunctional coping, that you did to survive, that are now getting in the way of having a life that you can be proud of. Look, people with a decent level of self-esteem, I don't think just settle for poor treatment. I don't think they allow toxic into their life, or if it comes in, they boot it right out. Because they know they need and they deserve better, and that is a no-brainer for them. I think healing also means taking responsibility for living differently. For owning our behaviors and changing the things we're not proud of. Making amends to ourselves, forgiving ourselves, and living differently. This leads into the next aspect of being able to be assertive, is self-trust. It is such a huge part of self-confidence, self-esteem, and mental health. I don't think you can be assertive if you don't believe yourself first. You can't ask for what you need in a relationship if you don't trust that what you need is valid. And that, guess what? You're the only one who gets to decide what you need. And that is true. No one has a right to tell you what you need and don't need. You get to decide whether that's true or valid for you and why it is. Another way you build self-trust is you work on following through on things you promised yourself, like maybe meeting deadlines, changing habits, prioritizing your time and energy, detaching from unhealthy people, taking care of your physical health, practicing self-care. Your self-talk is honest, yet it's loving and it's kind and it's compassionate. And you don't share your vulnerable stuff with people who can't support you trusting yourself, who are going to question you, either out of their own anxiety or their own jealousy or unhealthiness. You need people around you who say, of course you need a day off. Or that makes sense that you think that. Or I hear you. I understand that's what you value. That's what you believe. That's what you feel. Those people can practice the next aspect of healthy assertiveness, and that is detachment. That is a word you're going to hear often on the show. If you've been listening, you've heard it a whole lot. It's very important. Detachment means it's not that we don't care. We care a whole lot, but we really try hard to let go of the outcome. In other words, we're not acting out in fear-based ways. It means we're not reactive and emotionally immature. It means we don't make demands and we don't try to control. If we catch ourselves doing it, we stop and we say, wait a minute. What am I doing? I'm lashing out because I'm not getting what I want. It's good to honor your feelings of disappointment and fear and anger and frustration. But what you don't do is you don't put that on other people. They can either listen to you or not, hear you or not, honor you or not, join with you in sharing that value or not. And detachment means I have to go kicking and screaming to acceptance that is what's going on for them, and that's not my business. What my business is me. Okay, now what am I going to do now that the ball has come back to me from them? What am I going to choose? What am I going to grieve? What am I going to work through? What am I going to just let go of? What do I need to do to take care of me? It's not focused on them, but what is it about you? Remember the phrase, just because they doesn't mean I? And what is my stuff again? Oh yeah, that's right. It's my fear they won't honor what I need. So I'm sitting here trying to over-explain 15 times to make them understand and want to honor me. Instead, I need to work on grieving that they may never, or at least they don't want to right now. And I need to work on acceptance. I need to let go. That is the detachment work. Another big aspect of assertiveness is being emotionally honest. So no more passive-aggressive behavior. Remember we've talked before where there's aggressive behavior, there's passive-aggressive and shitty behavior, and then there's assertive in the middle. It is not demanding and controlling, but it's not passive and emotionally dishonest, I think, either. It means emotional maturity in my book. It means owning what you feel. Those are your feelings. So you don't manipulate others. You don't do passive-aggressive behavior to play victim. You don't guilt people. You don't say because of you, I. You own it. You're not condescending. Your focus isn't even on them. So you don't use shame or guilt or the poor me or the I can't believe you business. Instead, you're going to let them know about you. That you're hurt, that you might be disappointed, but that you have to come to acceptance. It's about what you think, feel, need, decided, will decide, or will need to accept. Owning what you're afraid of. Owning what you're sad about or proud of. And there's tons of humility in this too, guys. You don't have all the answers and you don't need them anymore. You are open and teachable. You can hear constructive criticism. You can hear another's hurt, or you're going to learn to get better at it, especially when you're the one who hurt them, which is the hardest thing to hear. And you're going to learn to own it and say, I am sorry. I'm really going to take a hard look at that behavior. Emotional maturity can make or break a relationship, I think. I work with relationships every day. I see it happen. Whether they be personal relationships, marriages, or work relationships. If you're a manager at work, emotional maturity is the essence of good leadership. And without it, it can be so damaging to your relationship with your employees and their well-being. If you're a manager or a boss, you have a lot of heavy responsibility in a good way to influence and impact and help grow the people who work for you. If you're a parent, emotional maturity and assertiveness is everything if you want them to see you as grounded and healthy. The final part of assertiveness is courage, being brave, not stuffing what you need to say, walking back in the room if you need to and say, hey, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to be able to go help you on Saturday. I really think I deserve a raise this year. I don't let people scream at me. Life is short in one regard. Grabbing the moment, or as close to the moment as you can. I tell my clients they have 3 days to go clean it up. You got to go back within 3 days. Otherwise, you're serving it cold, and that's awful. Own your stuff. Ask for what you need. It tells the truth about you. At the same time, learning to accept the truth of others. Learning to hear no and not taking it personally and not making it about us. It's about them. Their no is about them. And if I have a right to say no, so do they. If I have a right to ask for what I need, so do they. A person who is assertive is clear in their communication. They communicate their wishes. They set boundaries. But we don't make demands. We don't try to control. We don't want to. Assertiveness is about balance, You want to get your needs and wants across and your boundaries, but you want them to do it as well. And the more assertive you become, the more you're going to want that from other people in your life. it's going to start feeling gross when they're not doing the same for you. It's going to feel really yucky and passive aggressive, because it is. Because we want to honor that their rights and needs are no less valuable or meaningful than ours are. And when we're assertive, we feel empowered. We have no desire to tear anyone down. In fact, we want to help build others up. We can get our point across firmly. We can feel grounded. We're not in fear. We're not reactive. If you're still feeling the yuck and feeling reactive, what I encourage you to do is don't say anything yet. Get grounded, get in your truth. Don't focus on them. Bring it back to you. Then you can walk back in the room and say, actually, I'm just not going to be able to help you. You're not going to say something like, I can't believe you effing asked me to help you. What's wrong with you? You're not going to focus on them at all. Even if you think they're crazy, even if you think they are being controlling and ridiculous, that's theirs to figure out. Your job is to stand in your truth and do that in the healthiest way you can. I think working on our self-confidence is synergistic. I think as we witness ourselves speaking up more and we see ourselves putting our truth out there and making it more and more real, we grow our confidence. When we have to say no or ask for what we need, we aren't so much showing them we have value and that our needs matter, but we're really showing ourselves. And I think the more we do this, the more we're taking responsibility for ourselves, which I think helps us feel a sense of healthy internal locus of control over our choices and thus who we are. And that helps us feel more glued together. I think this also helps us feel like we're not the victim of others, a victim of their choices, their views of us, all of that. I think that gives us more hope. And I think we see more possibilities for our life because we believe more in ourselves now. I think we're listening more to our intuition, and we try to keep the focus on what is in alignment with who we are and who we're becoming. Our focus is not out there anymore. I think this in turn helps us feel good about ourselves because we have freedom and we're not being controlled and our insides are matching our outsides more and more every day. We begin to make more sense. And thus, we feel more balanced and grounded, and we're going to suffer less anxiety and depression. Our social anxiety, I think, can decrease dramatically over time as we practice this. Every time you step out and speak up, every time you share your truth with others and learn to manage a conflict in a healthy way, you're going to feel better and you're going to feel more peaceful. So today we talked about how assertiveness is not just a skill. And it's not just one thing either. It's multi-layered and I think multifaceted. And I believe all the parts are necessary and work together so that our insides can match our outsides and we can connect with others in healthier ways, using boundaries, preserving our self-worth, and doing it with healthy detachment and compassion. Assertiveness is built and made stronger over time. It's going to feel scary and awkward at first, but eventually you'll incorporate it as part of who you are. Someone who is emotionally honest, direct, caring, and emotionally safe. Okay, well, in this episode, we brought back one of your favorites from the past, number 145, which is about how assertiveness is more than just learning skills. I believe all the parts are necessary and they work together so our insides can match our outsides. And we can connect with others in healthy ways with boundaries, with self-worth for each person, and with compassion. We're going to be looking more into this topic over the next few months because as I'm talking about this on our weekly Facebook Lives, every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. The group is really enjoying these talks and so am I. I love seeing the growth and the support. To grab a seat, just join the community. The link is in the show notes. You can jump in on the lives and have access to the recordings and all the other good stuff. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you grabbed some things from today's episode that you can use. If you don't already get the newsletter, make sure you sign up at ownitpowercast.com or hit me up on social and I'll make sure you can get one. So, pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.